Good morning. My name is Kristen O'Shea. We are going live with the Women on the Move Facebook. It's right at 10 o'clock Central Time. I'm in Topeka, Kansas, and probably 11 o'clock for those of you on the East Coast, but we're going to dive right in and get started. Before I start, I am a woman on the move, and you are a woman on the move if you're joining in today, and I want to share what that is and what that means, and I'm going to read this so I don't forget any details. Women on the Move is a global women's empowerment network that is dedicated to fostering a digital environment where professionals can collectively share, engage, and collaborate and connect other global-minded women in various industries with the purpose of enterprise creation, growth, and development. Hey, Jasira, welcome. We promote social networking with help women achieve their dreams at a much faster rate with higher results. We are an inclusive environment to all women for all walks of life. Please don't forget to follow us on social media platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Just look for the logo. So, like I said, I'm a woman on the move. You're a woman on the move. If you're joining us today, hey. And we're just going to dive in and get started. I did create a poll on the side, so whenever that pops up, if you want to fill it out, that would be great. All right, I'm going to dive in and start by asking a question. So if we took a big group of people, this was a study that was done, a big group of people took a speed reading test, and then they were broken into groups of people who were average at it and people who just seemed to be really naturally talented at it. They got a ton of words per minute. They gave both groups different training and tactics on how to be better speed readers, and then they had them take the test again. So after they took it again, my question to you is, which group did better? Was it the group with average speed reading or the group who was above average? Any ideas? Feel free to post in the comment section. So it was actually the group who was above average in speed reading. The average group did get better by 66%, but the above average group got better by 828%. That's crazy. Above average, that's right. So what that tells us is that if you're working from a place where you already have natural talent, you have a much greater chance for success. Yet oftentimes conventional wisdom will tell us, work on your weaknesses, right? Work on those things that are weaknesses or deficits in us. And we tend to ignore our assets or our greatest contributions. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's all found in positive psychology and strengths. And so I encourage you to think about that as we jump in. So real quick, just want to invite anyone who's here to share where they're from. I mentioned I'm from Topeka, Kansas. Share where you're from, who you're with, your website in the comments, and we'll keep going. Hello. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in and define a talent. So a talent in this context would be a natural way of thinking, feeling, and behaving. So remember, any talent that you have from South Florida, hello. I bet it's humid there today. It's finally not raining here in Kansas, which is nice. So love the hearts. A talent is a natural way of thinking, feeling, and behaving. So that's something that can't be taught. That's likely something that we've had in us for a long time. And that's going to be your greatest ability to reach optimum success. So then when we add skills and knowledge, which can be taught, to our natural talents, that's when we're going to have the best outcome. So I work with an assessment called Gallup's CliftonStrengths Finder. Here's the book. And it's a great assessment. There's 34 different talents, and you get your top 5. If anyone has their top 5, feel free to share them in the space. Mine are discipline, harmony, individualization, responsibility, and deliberative. But so then you get your top 5, and there's a 1 in 34 million chance you'll have the same top 5 in the same order as someone else. So this is awesome because where some of them, like Myers-Briggs, tend to put you in a box, right? You're either an introvert or an extrovert, or with DISC, it's you're a D, you're an I. This is here's your talents, and you're unique and you're intricate, and there's more than just one way that we live and have personalities. So I tend to do it with Clifton Strengths Finder. Today, I'm going to walk through a way for you to think about your natural talents without even needing an assessment. So the first question for that natural talent is a yearning. So what activities are you drawn to? If you had an entire week of your calendar open up and you couldn't work on previous commitments, what would you spend your time doing? So when I looked at that question, I thought, that sounds a little bit like what retirement must feel like. But I know for entrepreneurs, we probably ask ourselves this more often, but what activities are you drawn to naturally? So that is the first question. Feel free to answer in the comment section or just jot down the question so that you have time to even reflect on this after our time together today. Okay, second question is satisfaction. What activities give you a kick where you think to yourself, when can I do that again? What are you doing at work or even at play where you're truly enjoying yourself, right? So it's just for enjoyment's sake. It's not to get something done or because you have to or because you're even doing something for someone else. It's just for pure enjoyment's sake. That's a hint in talent. Usually where there's pleasure, there's a hint of talent. So I'll give you an example for me. I've loved organizing since I was in first grade. I can remember sitting on the floor organizing my papers from school, which is really pretty odd, but I still love to organize. And if I had time with nothing else happening, I would organize my space, my physical things, maybe even some mental notes, things like that. That's something that I've always been drawn to. So think about what you've been drawn to. Okay, rapid learning is number 3. What activities do you pick up quickly? What activities do you execute naturally, but struggle to break down into steps for other people? Okay, so have you ever had those moments where you think to yourself, like, why isn't everyone like this? Or, well, duh. So I had a moment just 2 weeks ago. I jumped onto a webinar and someone said, wow, you're really prepared. And I thought, well, yeah. And one of my strengths or talents is responsibility, right? Following through on those commitments to other people. And that's always been very natural to me. And honestly, a lot of times our natural talents, they're so natural to us that we don't realize the uniqueness that comes with that rapid learning. So again, what activities do you pick up really quickly that are natural to you? Maybe someone teaches you some steps, but otherwise you pick it up really quickly. Rapid learning. All right, number 4 is glimpses of excellence. During what activities do you think, how did I do that? Observable flashes of outstanding performance. Okay, so this is another one. I think we don't often see this in ourselves unless someone else points it out. And so that's why this group, Women on the Move, and what Jasira is facilitating for us to build each other up and point out each other's talents in each other is so important. A lot of times we don't see that unless someone else shares it and says, how did you do that? And you're like, well, I don't know, I just did it. I know I was in high school and we did an activity that was working with older adults in a nursing home. And someone said, you're really talented with working with older adults. And because of that, I went on to continue to pursue that passion, and it's still a passion of mine today. Another one for me was public speaking. People were able to say, wow, you really have talent there. You should continue to pursue that. And that's been really beneficial. So speak those words of talent into other people. It's such a blessing. All right, number 5, you ready for it? Flow or total performance excellence. So I would want to ask, how many of you have heard of flow? What activities have you been so engrossed in that you just lose track of time? So there's this idea. I was presenting once and someone was like, Facebook. Well, yeah, you can be scrolling through Facebook and lose track of time, right? But this is more of something that is challenging to us, right? So there's a challenge. We're probably using our strengths, but you just lose track of time because you're totally engrossed in whatever it is you're doing. So Jasira, you talked about picking up graphic design quickly and writing. So that's probably talent both for the creative, your eye being able to see things, but it's awesome because you've also probably then built your skills and knowledge base around those subjects, which have turned them into natural strengths, right? So that's the idea. Pick up on what you're good at and then invest in it. Good. And yeah, always point out those things that are good in other people. Okay. All right. So those are the 5 things. Like I mentioned, the book has an assessment. And I mean, there's an assessment that also can play a role in helping you define those things. There's lots of assessments out there, but this is one that I particularly love. I defined it. So then I want to tell you why. So when I do my strengths coaching and we look at, okay, what are people's strengths? What are their talents? It often, sorry, I'm catching in. Hi, Mike. Hi, Michelle. Talking to people from different cultures and fitness. Yeah. So some people are naturally talented at being able to meet people who are very different than them and connect really quickly. So that's awesome. Keep it up. So I talk about why. And Gallup's done a lot of studies that show if you're using your strengths, you're more likely to be engaged at work. You're more likely to have a higher well-being. You're probably more productive and just living a good quality of life. Teams that are using their strengths and talking about them in the workplace, they know each other's strengths as a team and they're maybe even partnering strategically. They have way more likely a chance to have increased sales, increased profit, customer retention, less turnover. There's some really great stats, which I love because I always say, you know, strengths in and of itself is not necessarily the end game, right? But having a greater well-being in our life, that's an end game. Or being more engaged at work or more profit, that's an outcome or an end game. So I always tell people, figure out your talents and then aim them towards an outcome or result that you're wanting in your life. So that's the why, and the why is very important. So now my question for everybody, if you could type in the chat box, I would love this. So if we define employee engagement as people who are psychologically connected to their organization, they're helping their organization move forward in the job that they're in, what percentage of US employees are engaged in their jobs? That would be my question for you. What do people think? Hey, Carlina. What percentage of people are engaged in their jobs in the US? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share because I can't hold it in. So it's only 33%. And a lot of times people guess around this number, but it still makes me sad. And I will tell you, this is why I do the work that I do. I think we all spend far too much of our time, our energy, our resources, our best selves in our jobs. And for us to not feel like we're giving our organizations, our jobs, our best selves in moving an organization forward, I just think that's really sad. And so we've got 55% of the population is disengaged in their job. So they might be satisfied, they might show up, they're getting a paycheck, but they're not really helping move an organization forward. And then we've got our actively disengaged people at work, and that's about 16%. And they're not only unhappy, but they have to share that unhappiness with everyone they work with. Not good. We've all probably worked with one of those bad apples, right? And so where strengths comes in is says, okay, how do I use my strengths to be more engaged in my work, to be a better manager of people? So some of the things that I do coaching around with strengths is well-being, right? How do we look at your social, financial, physical, vocational, spiritual, community well-being, and how do we target our strengths to make those things better than what they already are? And then I also work with organizations on the employee engagement, and I work with managers on how to be better managers, because a lot of whether or not someone's engaged has to do, okay, I'm seeing these guesses now, has to do with the manager, right? So 70% of whether or not someone's engaged ends up going to the manager, which is why there's so many books about that. And so one more book to show you while I'm on a roll. Hi, Tanisha. Um, is Clifton Strengths for Students. So this is a book. I originally got into strengths and into the strengths coaching when I was a student at Kansas State University. Um, all the students got access to their top 5 strengths. And so then my role was, how do we move this across the campus to where it's not just a one-time assessment and gets put on a shelf, but students are actually using it to develop and apply their talent to increase their well-being and find jobs that are a good fit, etc. And so this book, Strengths, is used on a lot of campuses. My story is actually in the introduction, which is really cool. Obviously, I nerd out to this stuff, so that's awesome. You can think of times when you've been disengaged or really struggling in a job, and it takes a toll on all areas of your well-being, right? Like, it's just definitely a part of that. So here's my encouragement to you guys is, are you thinking about how much of your day is spent on your talents? How much of your day is spent doing things that you're naturally good at and building on those versus focusing on your weaknesses? And how can you do more of that, right? That's what this is all about, is build on what you're best at, not what you're worst at. So one of the activities that I like to do when I'm doing training or coaching is to show a report card. And on the report card is a sophomore from high school, and he's got an A in English and an A in history and I think a B in choir and a C in geometry and an A in PE. And I ask people, I say, okay, where do your eyes go? What should this person work on? And it's always brought up the C, geometry, he should work on geometry. Well, this person went on to be a pastor, so he has a master's of divinity and he coaches freshman boys football, right? And so, okay, if he just spent all this extra time on geometry, how much would that have helped him in the future? And of course, we've got to manage our weaknesses, but if we spend all our time there, he would have lost out on English and history, which is obviously where he flourished, where he did his best. And so for those of you with kiddos, I encourage you to, hi Beatrice, hi Kia, I encourage you guys to think about what is maybe kind of odd about them? What are they drawn to? What are they good at? And how can I encourage that? And when I look at their report card, how do I talk to them first about the areas where they've done their best? And then talk to them about managing that area that's maybe not as great, right? So that's what strengths is all about. I wanted to share a couple more things with you that I need to pull up. Feel free to share in the comment section where you're from. That stuff's always fun to see. I like to mention that this concept of positive psychology, it's really new within the last 18 years. So before that, right, psychology was so focused on what's wrong with people, what's this disease and how do we fix it, and what's this weakness and how do we take care of it. And it's just been recently that we're starting to see the shift to positive psychology about what makes someone flourish or live a good life? What are the virtues of humans and how do we build on that even more? So I want to read a couple quotes to you. Thousands have ceased to try to do their best because they have been reminded of only their worst. So what are you reminding yourself of? What are you reminding others of? Want to share with you a little bit of the evolution of the workplace, right? So what previous studies are finding and what the new workforce is wanting. So the old mindset is my salary. The new mindset is my purpose. The old mindset is my satisfaction. The new mindset is my development. Old mindset, my boss. New mindset, my coach. We all want to be developed and coached. Old mindset, my weaknesses. Develop those weaknesses. New mindset, my strengths. Old mindset, my annual review. New mindset, my ongoing conversation, right? Don't wait till the end of the year to tell me what I should be doing better. Old mindset, my job. New mindset, my life. And so, whether you're creating a workplace for someone else, think about how you're developing those things. If you're in a workplace, think about which of those is working and not working. Okay, other talents that I wanted to share with you. Okay, this one's by Albert Einstein. Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it's stupid. So think about not everyone has to be great at everything, right? With that speed reading test, we might think, gosh, but like if we only ever work on all the people who are great at it, then that leaves out such a big group of people. But that group of people who is average would be above average at something else. And so how are we looking for that? Right? Only been around for that long. So, okay, what other questions do you all have? I will admit I'm used to having a PowerPoint, and so I've kind of walked through my different notes so far. So like I said, I will take questions from here. For those of you who missed a little bit of the first part, I'll go through those 5 questions again. So if you're thinking about your own talent and how you're leveraging that or using that, there's 5 questions that help you think through your own natural talents. So I will share them with you. Jasira put some notes up top too. So number 1, yearnings. What activities are you drawn to? If you had an entire week of your calendar open up and couldn't work on previous commitments, what would you spend your time doing? Okay, what are you drawn to? Number 2, satisfaction. Where there's pleasure, there's usually a talent. What activities give you a kick when you think, when can I do that again? What are you doing at work or play that you're truly enjoying yourself? So I know for me, I said earlier, like that's definitely organizing. I like love to organize my physical things or my mental thoughts. It just has always given me a lot of joy. Categories of strengths. Yes, Jasira, I'll do that in just a second here. Number 3, rapid learning. What activities do you pick up quickly? What activities do you execute naturally but struggle to break down into steps for other people? So sometimes because talent is so natural to us, we don't always understand that it's a talent because it's so natural to us. So Jasira talked earlier about, for her, it was digital graphics and digital and creative and writing. Like that's always been very natural to her. So that's an example. Number 4 is glimpses of excellence. During what activities do you think, how did I do that? Observable flashes of outstanding performance. And then lastly, we've got flow or total performance excellence. What activities are you so engrossed in that you lose track of time? So we've all been doing something where we're just going, we're challenged, and you just lose track of time. That's a sense of flow. And that's a new kind of positive psychology concept within the last like 10 years. But the more chances you get flow into your workday, it's a really positive thing for your mind. You're naturally creative, you're challenged, and you're probably moving something forward. So, okay, tell you more about the categories of the strengths. So, like I said, I work with Gallup's CliftonStrengths, which has 34 different talents. They have broken them down then into what do those talents ultimately help you to do. And the definition of what it's assessing is a natural way of thinking, feeling, and behaving. And then the idea is if you combine that with skill and knowledge, your likelihood of success is a lot greater than working on a weakness, right? So while there's these categories, I definitely encourage you to think of them more as curtains and less as walls, right? Because we can all pull from what we have to do what we need to do. Strengths is less about what you're doing. It's not going to tell you you should be a teacher, you should be a public speaker, or whatever. It's more about how you're going about it. So a teacher with these strengths is going to look very different than a teacher with these strengths, and how they go about it is going to be different, but both of them can reach the outcome by using their own unique strengths. So the first category for these strengths is executing, and that's my favorite one. It's all about getting things done, that natural ability to catch an idea and make it a reality. So just people who just get a lot done during their day. Some of the strengths that fall in that category are responsibility, consistency, achiever, discipline, responsibility, focus. The second column is the influencing strengths. So these people are all about telling stories, making sure that the organization or whatever they're championing has a voice and that it's heard, right? So I think Women on the Move is this wonderful, influential voice for all of us to remind us to get our stories out there, to speak up. So that's the influencing strengths. Then you've got your relationship builders. And so these are the people in your office or in your family that are like, how are you doing? What'd you do this weekend? Like, right? They're so, they're the glue on that team that they keep everyone relational and focused on people. Some of the strengths in that one are like harmony, empathy, includer, positivity, adaptability. And then the fourth one is strategic thinking. And so these people processing the how, strategic, futuristic, learner, right? It's all about the process and how things could be better. So I will tell you, I have found over time, my strengths are really high in executing and relationship building. And my best partners are strategic thinking and influencing because they think so differently than me. And when we're able to partner together and say, you're best at this and I'm best at this, how can we leverage that? I'm able to give up some of the things that I would consider more non-talents, not natural for me, and they're able to do the same, and then we're able to swim in our own lanes together, and the final product is better. So the whole concept of strengths too is we want well-rounded teams, but as individuals, it's hard to be all things to all people. And so it's very freeing to be able to say, you know, these are not as high talents for me, but here's what I'm good at, and here's what I bring to the table, and it's my contribution, right? So, okay, we just have a couple more minutes left, so feel free to ask questions. I did want to share just a couple things. I have a special today just for the Women on the Move group, just for those of you that have joined today. And I provide a daily digital coaching because my concern when I do training and coaching is often there are like one-hit wonders, right? You learn a lot, it's awesome, but then how does it actually get integrated to change your life or change a behavior? And so I do daily digital coaching that allows you to put your strengths into an exercise every day, a 10-minute exercise that's really quick, and then reflect on it. So we're able to spot patterns. So for myself, I've noticed some patterns and rearranged my routine a little bit that has made me more productive in my day. It's been really cool. So you can check out a video more about it and like how the brain works, which I obviously love that stuff. But and there's some testimonials, but Jasira can put that link in there. So it's $67 for a month of the daily digital coaching based on your strengths. So I encourage you guys to check that out. It's an exclusive only for Women on the Move. Also, would love for you to connect via, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. My Instagram is O'Shea Strengths. My LinkedIn, it should just be Kristen O'Shea. My Facebook is O'Shea Strengths Coaching, or also Kristen Brunkow O'Shea on Facebook. I would love to connect with you guys. I also had to share, I do some floral arranging on the side, and that's a really fun, creative thing for me. So I've got the O'Shea Florals on Facebook and Instagram too. You can check that out. And lastly, I just encourage you to share the presentation and share what, encourage others, Women on the Move. My last thing, if there's anything you take away, it's hunt the good stuff in other people and use your own strengths, right? So with that, if there's any more questions, you know, we can connect afterwards. I've enjoyed being with you all today. Have a wonderful Saturday. Speak to someone's talents and use your own talents. And have a great day, everybody. Bye.